Good evening, hockey fans, and welcome to another episode of the Sports 2.0 show. My name is Dan Bradley. Thrilled to have you with us tonight for our playoff preview show. We have Erik Neff from the Sports 2.0 network. He'll be joining us in just a moment, as will our special guest, Diego Pasca. Diego joins us from the sinbinbreaks.com. It is a card and collectible hobby breaking group. We're thrilled to have him on, share some hockey expertise with us. Would be remiss if I didn't start the show with a salute to Derek Boogaard, one of my favorite hockey players growing up. Boogaard passed away 10 years ago today. A long battle with CTE, a lot of brain degeneration through the years of being a hockey player, passed away from a cocktail of alcohol and opiates, never a good combination. But would be remiss if, as a Wild fan and a hockey fan, didn't salute the Boogeyman today. Have his jersey hanging up behind us throughout the show. I hate starting off on a sad note like that, but R.I.P. Boogeyman, we miss you. You'll never be forgotten. On that note, we're going to switch gears here and go to a much more thrilling conversation, NHL playoff hockey. And with that, I would like to welcome Erik Neff and Diego Pasca to the show. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. How are we doing tonight?
Doing fantastic. Ready to talk some hockey. Excited the playoffs are finally here, man.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm super excited. Anytime I get to talk about hockey, I'm excited. So this is great.
Well, Diego, I want to thank you for joining us, and we're going to have you tell us a little bit more about the Sin Bin breaks later in the show. But jumping right into things here, we've got playoff action starting Saturday night. The Boston Bruins and the Washington Capitals kicking off the action 7:00 p.m. Eastern. Diego, we'll start with you on this one. Capitals Bruins. Who has the edge going into that series? Looking at the Stanley Cup betting odds, Boston actually had the best odds in that division, plus 1,000. The Capitals' third best odds, I think they were plus 1,700 to win the Cup. But we get a great series right off the rip with the Capitals and the Bruins.
Yeah, for sure. I could see this one totally going 7 games. I think it's going to be hard-hitting. I think there's going to be a lot of goal scoring. The Bruins have looked great since the trade deadline. Taylor Hall, Curtis Lazar, I think were excellent acquisitions for them. Beyond the 7 games, I think there's going to be some bad blood that develops over the course of the entire playoff series between Marchand, if Tom Wilson is healthy and playing his normal style. For sure can see these guys developing some like just anger towards one another, and I think that'll make for a great series. I think the Bruins are going to take it, though.
I'm kind of in a similar position on that one. I think it's going to be a good series that goes the distance. Erik, Caps Bruins, break it down for us. What do you see and what stands out to you heading into this series?
As a massive Alex Ovechkin fan, I would love to swoop in and knock that back down and take the Caps. Unfortunately, Ovi has not been 100% healthy for the last few months, dealing with the leg, lower body, not great going into the playoffs. You know he's going to go out and you know he's going to play as many minutes as he possibly can. But without Ovi fully healthy, I think the Caps are going to have a tough time. And as Diego just said, whenever a team can pick up the 2018 Hart Trophy winner at the trade deadline, you're doing something. You're adding something to an already fantastic team. You're going to see a battle of 2 fantastic top lines here. You can put anybody on the line with Ovi and Backstrom, and they're going to be fantastic, whether it's Wilson or whether it's Mantha. So I'm not worried about either top line. I think both top lines are going to perform. My only worry for the Caps is how healthy are they headed into this series? And if Ovi isn't completely healthy, where are they going to get that scoring from against Boston? I've actually got the Bruins in 7 here as well. I think this series does go 7 games either way, and I think Boston takes it home.
Yeah, Taylor Hall on a point per game pace with Boston since he got picked up at the trade deadline, had 2 goals in I think 37, 38 games with the Buffalo Sabres before being traded to Boston. And just on an absolute tear. Seems like it's really the right fit. Tanner Kern says Bruins by 1 million. I don't think it'll be Boston, quite by 1 million.
He's from Boston. He can't vote. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get a say.
A little bit of a homer take there, but I do think Boston is going to come away with this series. You mentioned the Capitals' health. TJ Oshie hasn't yet been cleared to return to the lineup as well. I think that's a cause for concern. Evgeny Kuznetsov and Ilya Samsonov are in COVID-19 protocol as well. They might be back in time for those games. I'm not entirely sure. Haven't seen all the final details on that yet. But they do show up as in COVID-19 protocols, so we have to keep an eye on that as well. Switching over to the other East Division matchup, Pittsburgh Penguins and New York Islanders. Diego, I want to start with you again here because you, as an Islanders fan, I know you're licking your chops with this playoff matchup. A couple good playoff series between the Penguins and Islanders in recent years, and really, I think this is going to be one of the most fun series to watch in the opening round.
So I think the series goes 6. I want to say that the Islanders are going to win the series, but I don't think they are. I think the Penguins are going to take it in 6. The Islanders have not been themselves since they lost Anders Lee. I don't have the record in front of me, but I know it's not been a good record. The acquisitions at the deadline, while I love them, have not meshed really well. I hope that it changes during the playoff because I know it's a totally different animal once you get to this stage. But it seems that Barry Trotz has been hesitant to take Zajac off that front line, off the first line. He's been putting Komarov there. He's been doing his business, but at the same time, it's not Anders Lee. We've been missing that punch. The one upside, Matt Barzal seems to be turning it around. I think it's the right time that he's turning it around. I hope it continues into the playoffs. Our defense is without doubt probably one of the deepest in the league. Our goaltending is phenomenal. Varlamov had one heck of a season, and I hope that continues into the playoffs. But at the same time, Jeff Carter has meshed really well in Pittsburgh. You have Sidney Crosby, who's still in the prime of his career. They have depth. They played through all those injuries and still managed to win this division, which was not easy. I have to go with a hockey choice, and the hockey choice tells me that the Pens are going to win this one in 6, and it kills me.
It's so tough when you have to pick against your own team. I would never. No, I do all the time. I would disagree. I've got the Isles in 7 here. I've got the Isles in 7. I think this will be the most fun series of the first round. The Pens were 6-2 against the Isles in the regular season. Not worried about the regular season as much. I thought Zajac and Palmieri were great pickups at the deadline. It's not Anders Lee, but they were great pickups. What I'm most excited about, though, is the Pens have a top 5 power play. The Isles, I believe, are 6th in the NHL in penalty kill. I love seeing that. That's the special teams matchups in the playoffs are always amazing. The NHL, for one thing, just does the playoffs right. But it seems like we always get a couple of these huge special teams matchups every season. And this year, this is the one I'm watching, that the top 5 versus top 5 penalty kill and power play here. So I do have the Isles in 7, though. I love Barkov, and I think Crosby, Malkin, Carter, Bluger, super deep at center. I mean, I get it, but maybe I'm just homer picking because Diego's my friend. I don't know, but I'm going to go Isles, man. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to go Isles in 7. I would love to see the Isles make a deep run this year.
You mentioned special teams. I got to throw something in there. I'm sorry, but the Islanders were first in the penalty kill at home, I believe, this year. On the road, we're somewhere along the lines of like 22nd. So that's just something to keep an eye on. They're going to be on the road more often in this series. I don't know why. I didn't understand it. It seemed a little better towards the end of the season, but if I recall the statistic, they were 22nd on the road on the penalty kill. So just something to keep in mind.
Well, we saw this Islanders team make a run to the conference finals last year before losing to the eventual champion in the Tampa Bay Lightning, just on the backs of their defense and goaltending. I think Varlamov has looked even better this year. 7 shutouts. Islanders have 10. No other team has more than 8, and that's Colorado. They definitely have defense that can carry the team forward, but I think the big point, as Diego touched on, is where is the offense going to come from with Anders Lee out of the lineup? Barzal playing better. Last year you had Anthony Beauvillier step up. Come playoff time, can he flip that switch again and get things going? Zajac Palmieri as well. But Erik, I hate to disagree with you, but I think I got to go with Diego on this one, and I too am taking Pittsburgh in 6. A healthy Evgeny Malkin back in the lineup as well, and now playing with Jeff Carter in there as well, who can play anywhere in this lineup with any partner, any center. He can play center, he can play wing. 8 goals in 11 games since the trade deadline, just on a tear, playing great hockey. And we saw him lead the Kings to the Cup a couple seasons back in 2012. Just unreal playoff hockey. There are guys who have that switch that they can find for playoff hockey, and he is one of those guys. And I think Pittsburgh. So we have Pittsburgh and Boston kind of as a panel, I think, is what we have for the East Division advancing there. Moving on, though, to the Central Division. This is going to be a fun one as well. Carolina Hurricanes will end up finishing 2nd overall among the division-winning teams. You have Nashville, who has been red hot coming into the playoffs. Erik, you had a great stat about the Predators since I want to say it was March 15th, March 18th, something like that. Do you have that in front of you?
19-7-1 since March 15th. That is a hell of a run to give them a shot to even be here. So they're definitely not backing in. Forsberg, 32 points in 39 games. So they're definitely coming into the playoffs head first, for sure.
Diego, do you think Nashville has any chance to knock off Carolina here?
Oh, absolutely. They're a deep team. They can score. They have the goaltending. They have the experience. They were just recently in the Stanley Cup, a few years ago. So, I mean, anything can happen in the first round, especially. The first round is literally anything can happen. But my gut says the Carolina Hurricanes are going to pull it out. They had one amazing season. They are one of the deepest teams. Their defense is extraordinary. They can score at will. Their only question on my end is going to be the goaltending. Does the goaltending stand up? Because I think Nashville is going to start firing, and they're going to pummel that net. They're going to put as much of the net as they possibly can. Does the goaltending stand up, or is it the D that's going to carry them? But I do think that Carolina – I think this could also be a 7-game series, 6 or 7 games, but I do see Carolina pulling it out.
I was going to go almost exactly what you said there. The Canes' depth is completely insane. They had 9 double-digit goal scorers this year, 6 of which not on the top line. I mean, that's deep. As you said, though, I think this series could also come down to goaltending. Some poor goaltending. A few off nights from the Canes, and maybe you see the Preds steal a couple, and maybe you do see it go 7. But as it stands right now, I've got the Canes in 6.
Well, and I'm going to agree with our commenter here, Tony Knight, who says Carolina in 5. I think as good as Nashville has played, Carolina is one of the most well-rounded teams, not just in this division, but in the league as a whole. And I think they've kind of flown under the radar a bit this year. Colorado has been one of the most talked about teams, Vegas, Tampa Bay as last year's champion. And Carolina's kind of slid under the radar even within their own division. And here they are as the division champs. Nashville playing well down the stretch, but to the goaltending point as well, seeing that they have Peter Mrazek, James Reimer, and Alex Nedeljkovic, all 3 of those guys could start opening night. They have 3 goaltenders that they can run with and can kind of just hand it off to whoever's playing well, whatever they see in practice. And I think Carolina is going to get by Nashville, who really they had to burn it out to get there. I'm not worried about Nashville beating Carolina twice at the end of the season. Carolina resting a lot of guys to get ready for the playoffs. I'm taking Carolina in 5 in this one. I think that's going to be one of the shorter first round series. We have
I know we've got Dougie Hamilton and Slavin kind of get all the talk there with the Canes defense, but Brett Pesce has been phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
He has been absolutely phenomenal for the Canes. So I just wanted to throw that in. Just a little shout out to Brett Pesce if you're watching.
That'd be awesome. If Brett Pesce was watching this podcast right now, I would lose my mind. That would be fantastic.
I will also lose my mind. That would be amazing.
We have a great question here from Tanner Kern. Biggest surprise in the first round. And that actually is going to segue really nicely into our next matchup. The Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. A lot of people I've seen just reading the previews today of what other people are saying about this series, and people aren't giving the Panthers a chance. I'm going to go on record and say I think the Panthers beat the Lightning, and I think it's going to happen pretty quick. I think that might be another 5-game series as well. Really kind of a surprise pick in national media conversation among hockey experts. I want to know what you guys think on this series. I think this is another one that I've got circled as watch as many of this series, as many games as you can.
Absolutely. I have this series being close, and I've got it going 7, and I've got Florida putting up a hell of a fight. But Stamkos is back. You've got Kucherov back. Tampa Bay's getting healthy, and a very healthy Tampa Bay offense is a very scary thing, as we've seen the past couple of seasons. So I've got Tampa Bay in 7. That's not counting Florida out at all. I mean, you can't count out Barkov ever. I mean, the man's a machine. It's hard for me to pick against a team with Kucherov. He's one of my favorite players. I love watching the guy play. I love the way he goes about his business. I've been watching Steven Stamkos for what feels like 1,000 years, even though he's not really all that old. I just that offense scares the crap out of me. It scares me to pick against the Tampa Bay Lightning.
All right, so I'm taking Florida. Erik's taking Tampa Bay. Diego, you got the deciding vote on this one. Who are you going to take? Panthers, Lightning.
I think the Stanley Cup champions are going to take it to 7 games, but I do think ultimately this is going to be our surprise matchup of the first round. I think the Panthers are going to take this one. Man, if you watch those last 2 games of the regular season, those were incredible. If that's any indication of how that series is going to go, that's must-watch TV. You have to tune into this series. Both teams can score. Both teams have the goaltending. Both teams have defense. I mean, this is a matchup made in heaven. They are both well coached. I love both the coaches there. I mean, this is going to be incredible. This would be the biggest letdown of the year if the series did not go 7 games.
Well, it's amazing how well the Panthers have played defensively without Aaron Ekblad in the lineup as well. He's been out for almost 2 months now with a torn ACL. He's done for the year. And the Panthers just keep finding ways to win. They go out and get Sam Bennett at the trade deadline. Bennett scores 15 points in 10 games. He's playing well given the depth behind Barkov and Huberdeau there. Which version of playoff Sergei Bobrovsky are we going to get? Are we going to get the one who, was able to take down Tampa Bay in the first round a couple years ago in the playoffs? Or are we going to get, Bobrovsky who could barely get to the playoffs? Which version there are we going to see? But yeah, that's, as you said, Diego, I think that's must-watch series. And not all of these – obviously, as sports fans, we want to watch as much hockey as we can this time of year and as much playoff hockey as we can. But you can't watch all of it. If there are 2 games that are scheduled close to the same time, or if I can only pick one game to watch on a given night, and it's Panthers Lightning, that's the one I'm going with. Moving on here, North Division. This one, North Division has me mad. They're starting like a week after everybody else.
Yeah.
Their first game is next Thursday. Other series will be in game 3 by next Thursday. But you get Toronto and Montreal in the North Division. So first off, just talking about what an advantage it is for those teams to rest and get healthy for round 1. Let alone for the other rounds, but then moving into the matchups here as well. Diego, how do you feel about the delayed start for the North Division, and then your thoughts on the Leafs-Canadian series?
It's unfortunate. This time of year, I feel like the teams don't want to be away from playing for too long. This could have some interesting ramifications to all the North teams. Some of these teams might actually benefit from a little bit of a layoff. I think this might actually hurt Toronto more than anyone because they've been clicking. And too much time away, not being able to focus on the task at hand, now winning a round, I think it just starts to get into their heads a little bit. I could see the Canadiens possibly upsetting the Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs should win this series. I have minimal doubts, as much as I dislike Maple Leafs, and I don't want to see John Tavares ever win a series in his life for the rest of his career. I do think this will be the one, and it's going to be a pretty sick series. I mean, you got the classics, you got the Canadiens, you got the Leafs. They're going to be at the meccas of Canada playing hockey on the big stage here. I think the Leafs finally pull it off, move on to the second round. But I am keep my fingers crossed that the Canadiens are able to at least put up a fight and maybe win this one. I called Leafs in 5.
I actually have written down right in front of me Leafs in 5, but I do think the Habs could take this a little deeper. Gallagher is a massive player for this team, for the Habs. So this extra week, if Gallagher, if his thumb heals and he can come back healthy, that's a huge step. I mean, just without Gallagher in the lineup this season, they're 7-11 without him, 17-9-9 with him. He is very much, they go as he goes, or that has very much been the case so far this season. But when it comes down to it, man, the Leafs have too much offense. That top line's ridiculous. I've got the Leafs in 5 as well.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by this series because we look at last year with the Canadiens upsetting the Penguins in the first round of the playoffs, and almost nobody saw that one coming outside of Montreal. We've seen that this team can defensively find ways to shut down opponents. You look at a guy like Austin Matthews, who has 40 goals already this season, just absolutely ran away with the Richard race. Nobody else was even close. Even McDavid, who put up more than 100 points. We're going to talk about him in just a minute. Seeing the Canadiens, I think getting Cole Caulfield, the Holby Baker winner out of the University of Wisconsin, picking him up for a late season push. His first 2 goals were overtime game winners. The guy just has that clutch gene. He's a very, very good hockey player. And I think he, alongside with Tyler Toffoli there as well, gives the Canadiens a bit of offense, but I don't know that they have enough to keep up with the Leafs in the first round. But again, to both of your points, the health with the time that they get for getting Gallagher back will Carey Price be healthy as well?
Yep.
He's
and
been
which
battling
Carey
through
Price?
concussion. Yeah, and which Carey Price
which
shows
Carey
up.
Price are you going to get? And then if you get the bad Carey Price, then you got to bring in, Blues legend Jake Allen.
Jake Allen.
I've been down that road in the playoffs. No, thank you.
You have, but as a Wild fan against Jake Allen, putting up 40 saves a night and letting in 1 goal, are you going to get that Jake Allen as well?
Yeah, you can. It's I guess it's for the Habs. I mean, flip a coin for which goalie they go with and which version of that goalie they go with. But we do know Manning, the other goal, is a guy who went 17-2-2 this season when he was in the crease. Jack Campbell's been absurd this year, so 923 save percentage. You know what you're getting on the other end. Leo just wants to participate in the show, Diego. It's okay. He knows hockey.
It's a pet-friendly program.
He knows hockey, man. All right. If he wants to chime in, I'm fine with it. So, but yeah, that's. I think in that series, as much as you have a very good goalie on one end and possibly a very good goalie on the other, just the Leafs offense, man. Austin Matthews. That's Austin Matthews. He has him and Nylander both. I want to punch them both right in the face. Like, I just see their faces, and I just want to punch them. They change your face. I don't know, but yeah, they're gonna win.
Matthews has the worst facial hair in the league, but
Andrew
his nostrils
Luck
per 60 is off the charts. That man just has a giant nose. I love throwing that stat out there. We talk all these advanced stats. That's what we get. But I think as well, having Freddie Anderson finally starting to get healthy. He's been on that AHL conditioning stint. I don't think he's going to push Campbell for that starting job. However, Toronto media being Toronto media, they're going to stir up the controversy about it and make a goaltending controversy there, whether or not there actually is one. Campbell's playing too well. That's his net right now.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think I agree with both of you guys on this. This will be another shorter one, and I'm going to go Leafs in 5 as well. From one incredible offensive talent to another, the Edmonton Oilers and Winnipeg Jets. Connor McDavid, 100 points in 53 games. He's at 104 right now. Still has a game to go. The guy is absolutely incredible. Led the Oilers to the second seed in the North, but does he have enough around him to get past Winnipeg in the first round here? What do we think on that, gentlemen? Do the Oilers have the depth to get past Winnipeg?
I don't have the Oilers or the Jets winning this series. I actually have McDavid in 6, just Connor just him by himself. So I do believe they're not a deep team, but I do believe he has what he needs to get out of the first round. You are dealing with Hellebuyck, reigning Vezina winner. But still, it's Connor McDavid, folks. It's one of those lines where you actually don't say the 3 names on the line. You just say the McDavid line. I enjoy those type of lines where I don't have to remember who both of his wings are. I can just say, the McDavid line. So but that line's just so dominant with him, over 100 points. I don't give him much of a chance. Mark Sheffley does have 61 points on the season. Wheeler, very good. Connor on that same line, very bad defense out of that Jets when that line is on the ice. The Jets have to figure out a way to not let that line ever line up with the McDavid line, or they're going to get blown off the ice. That line has just been historically bad on defense this year. So I just don't give the Jets much of a shot in this series. I believe it could be a 5-game series even with the Oilers, but I've got the Oilers in 6.
Diego,
this is one of those that I've been thinking about. I've had a hard time kind of picking a winner out of these two. The Oilers, of course, offensively, super gifted. McDavid, Draisaitl. I mean, those are probably 2 of the best players in the league right now. Can the Winnipeg Jets just figure out how to shut them down? If the answer is yes, I think Winnipeg will take it. I think since Winnipeg made that trade, the Patrick Laine trade, they have not been the same team. They are not that same team that I saw last year. I'm like, wow, this team is scary. I would hate to match up with them. They do have Hellebuyck. I think that's going to be the biggest difference. If Hellebuyck gets hot, I think they have the upper hand there. Goaltending will win games in the playoffs. They do have a ton of depth offensively where they can roll the 4 lines. I don't think that Edmonton is going to be able to do that in a long 7-game series. I think that's going to be the difference. Have we seen McDavid? Have we seen Draisaitl enough in the playoffs to say, hey, these guys are going to be super impactful. They have the experience. They know how to work in these primetime moments. I don't know. There's too much of a question mark for me. I don't like their goaltending. I don't like most of their defense. I'm going to have to go Jets in 6 on this one.
How can you not like Tyson Barrie and Daryl Nurse, though?
Nurse is having a surprisingly good season.
Yeah,
but again, how much of that is being on the power play with McDavid to put up those types of numbers as well. McDavid is the type of player who makes everybody on the ice better, even his opponents, because they have to be at their best to shut him down. You can't take a shift off if 97's on the ice. And I think for that reason, I think McDavid almost single-handedly wills Edmonton into the second round. Just the highest point per game season that we've seen since Jagr and Lemieux in the mid-90s with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Just a historic pace. The 9th player in NHL history to have 100 points in 53 games. I think Edmonton does ultimately take this series. Winnipeg really playing bad hockey down the stretch. Without Nikolai Ehlers in the lineup, they've won twice in their last 11 games. They got one more game to go. But I think Edmonton is going to come out on top in this series. It's going to be close. It's going to be, I think, like Diego said, but probably a 7-game series. It might go the distance. But I think Edmonton does come out on top in that one. Finally, moving into the West Division, and this is tricky because we don't actually have the final matchups yet for what this division is going to be. The Colorado Avalanche, with a win tonight, they take over the top spot and home ice throughout the playoffs. But if they, for some reason, lose tonight to the Kings, Vegas ends up with the top overall spot. We saw Colorado just put an absolute beatdown on them last night. I would think Colorado is going to win tonight too, and take over that top spot, which would lead us to Colorado and St. Louis for the first round, and Vegas and Minnesota for the first round. If we assume that Colorado wins tonight and we get Colorado St. Louis as a series, Erik, as the Blues fan, want to start with you on that one. What is your thought, seeing all of the star power that the Avalanche have lining up on the other side of your beloved Blues?
Well, I would prefer not to play Colorado in the
I think
first
everyone
round.
would.
Just personal opinion, don't really want to play them in the first round. That being said, I would love to smash a Stan Kroenke-owned team in the first round of these playoffs so much. So just assuming that that is the matchup, I think the way the Blues have played the last month or so, a lot of heart. Also, a lot of we go as Ryan O'Reilly goes, though, as well. So we have gotten healthier as the years went on, kind of been in and out of health all year. I think the Blues can push the series to 6 or 7 games, and my heart wants to take the Blues. I'm just going to take the Blues in 7, even though you guys know I want to take the Avs in 7. I'm just going to say Blues in 7, even though it's probably the Avs in 7. I do think that could be a 6-7 game series. I do think the Blues have the heart to push it deep.
I like the O'Reilly revenge factor that you touched on there too, having played for Colorado in the past as well, kind of maybe having a chip on his shoulder about that. Diego, if we do get Colorado and St. Louis in the first round, what stands out in that series to you?
Colorado's got one of the nicest teams in the whole league. I mean, I've watched several of their games just from being up late. My God, what depth, what scoring. I don't think McKinnon gets enough love.
He doesn't.
No.
He doesn't.
Absolutely incredible. Even Rantanen. I mean, wow. Goaltending's been playing relatively well. That to me is going to be the big question mark. Again, and it's a lot of these teams that have amazing forwards. They have a really good D. Does the goaltending hold up in the playoffs? And ultimately, I think that could be their only downfall, their only undoing as we get later into the playoffs, and if they continue to move on. Regardless of who Colorado plays, I think they're going to win in 6. I have Colorado winning in 6. I think at least one of the games you're going to start seeing one of the goalies, whoever's playing, have a tough time. I think they'll have to make some readjustments, try to figure out how to play defensively well so that the goalie does not get exposed as much. But ultimately, I think they're too deep. They're just too good. They're well coached. And I'm not even a Bednar fan. I don't think he's the right fit for that team. I think they could do better in terms of hiring a coach. But I think currently he's got them rolling on all cylinders. And I just love watching them play. High tempo, it's fun. I think they take whatever series is at hand that's in 6.
I think it is going to end up being Colorado St. Louis. And to that point, Diego, Philip Grubauer started the 4th most games out of any goaltender this season, and he missed time because he was in COVID-19 protocol as well. So he has been just an absolute workhorse for the Avalanche. But does he have the endurance and the stamina to carry through this cup run? Because behind him, they've got Devin Dubnyk, who, as a Wild fan, yikes, seeing his game drop off over the last couple of years has been awful. Sub 900 save percentage, never want to see that. Goals against average above 3, never want to see that. Colorado is really behind the 8 ball if Grubauer misses any length of time in this series. They are a really well-balanced team. You look at the defensive group with Devon Taves, with Cale Makar, Bo Byram, Sam Girard. They just have so much talent defensively. But then you look into their forward group, they've got the scoring depth behind McKinnon and behind Rantanen, Landeskog. You start getting into your Brandon Sods, getting Alex Newhook coming up as a rookie. Watch for him. I think he could be a strong contender for Rookie of the Year next year as well. Just a perfect fit for Colorado's scheme right now, and he's going to play fourth line minutes, but he has top line talent. Their forward depth is just off the charts, but goaltending could be an issue. But I do think Colorado advances out of the first round. Whether it ends up whoever they end up playing in the first round, I think Colorado does advance there. If we assume that it's Colorado and St. Louis, then that means the other series is Vegas and the Minnesota Wild. As a Wild fan, you can see the Bugard jersey, the Kaprizov reverse retro, the state of hockey flag here. We've got all of that going on. Guys, do my Wild have a chance against the Vegas Golden Knights?
I give you've got a chip in a chair, Danny. You got a chip in a chair.
I'll take it.
And I believe you're wearing your Chips jersey right now.
Yes.
That's that guy right there, Kirill the Thrill, baby. That is why I give the Wild a shot in this series. 100%. You got me into this young man before the season, so I just happened to watch a few more Wild games this season just to watch this young man progress. Man, he is fun to watch play. He has busted out some. Man, he's busted out some moves this season that are remind me of a younger Patrick Kane, just putting guys on skates as they already are. So, I mean, just kind of what he reminds me of, the way he plays around the net, some of the moves he's got. The Wild do have a shot. I don't hate the Golden Knights, but I'm very biased against them because it's like it's like suddenly they came into the league with endless money. And they just buy up everybody, mostly my beloved former captain, Alex Pietrangelo, who I would be happy if – I won't say never won another thing in his life, but I won't be mad if he never wins another thing in his life. So I will give the Wild a shot here. I think they can at least push the Golden Knights to 6-7 games, and I will take the Golden Knights in 7.
I'm going to be kind of real here. I think the Wild played above expectations all year. From the little that I've watched, I think they're fortunate that they even made it into the playoffs and they made it into the playoffs. I'm happy to see they have some bit of a bright future with some of their younger guys. Ultimately, I think Vegas is just deep everywhere. Goaltending, forward group, defensive group, they're well coached. They just know how to play game in, game out. They've been in high-tempo situations, these high-pressure situations in the last several years. I mean, geez, their first year in the league, they make it all the way to the Cup Finals. Most of that group is still there. They've only gotten better. I have a hard time seeing Vegas not taking it in 5.
I agree that Vegas is one of the most stacked lineups. Getting Alex Pietrangelo to make an already defensive-minded team even better defensively is huge. The Robin Lehner acquisition from Chicago last year to have goaltending depth behind Fleury, huge. They are probably going to be getting Max Pacioretty back healthy here for game 1 of the series. Vegas is a very, very good hockey team. And Diego, having watched more of the Wild this year, yes, you're right. To a degree, I think they really have played above expectations. At the beginning of the year, I thought they were going to finish 4th in the standings here behind St. Louis. St. Louis, of course, just battered with injuries this year. Really kind of took its toll. Thought maybe Arizona might push, but the Kirill Kaprizov effect has just completely changed this team. This isn't the same Wild club that plays a boring style of hockey, puts up 25 shots a night and wins games 2-1. That's not this team anymore. The Wild are a top 10 offense in the league by goals per game, and much of that has come from Kirill Kaprizov. Joel Eriksson Ek playing much better lately as well. He's taken on kind of the true first-line center role that they thought they might be able to get when they drafted him. At the very least, a very, very good number 2 center on the team. The Wild second in the league in blocked shots per game, but who do they trail in that category? Anybody know?
Vegas?
It's Vegas. It's Vegas. Vegas leads the league in block shots per game, and it's by about 0.3 of a block shot. It's like 14.9 to 14.6, something like that. So it is pretty close. But Vegas, a very good hockey team. The one big stat I think that works in the Wild's favor is that the Golden Knights in franchise history have never won in regulation at the XL Energy Center. They have not beat Minnesota in regulation in Minnesota. And in fact, in a normal year, a Western Conference team, no Western Conference team has a better record against Vegas than Minnesota for whatever reason. And as a Wild fan, it doesn't make sense, but Vegas struggles against the Wild. So I think it does go to 7 games. I'm hoping it goes to 7 games. That means a ton of playoff hockey and playoff experience for a younger Wild team, and especially for guys like Kevin Fiala, Jordan Greenway, Erik Kaprizov. I'm so stoked to see playoff Kaprizov. And we saw what he could do in the regular season, leading all rookies in goals, seeing him, whoever he ends up playing against, whether it's Colorado, whether it's Vegas. I think it's going to be a heck of a series. I do think Vegas comes out on top, and Vegas and Colorado in the second round. I mean, that would be just a phenomenal series as well. To kind of put a wrap on our prediction segment side of things, Diego, going to start with you on this one. Your picks for the Stanley Cup final and who you think is going to win.
Oh boy. That's so hard. Come back in a second. Come back to me in a second.
Okay, we'll throw it to Erik then. Erik.
Put all the pressure on me to make the Stanley Cup. I'll tell you what, Dan, you give us a matchup and I'll give you a winner because there's so many variables that could happen. So we'll do it that way. Dan, who do you think the matchup is? Who do you think runs through both sides? And I'll just choose. We'll narrow it down for me and Diego. That way we only have to choose between the two
we'll do
that
that.
you chose.
We'll do that. At the beginning of the year, before a single puck dropped the ice, before we heard a whistle and the clock started, I put Carolina and Colorado in the Cup final for this year. Way back, I think January 8th or 9th, that article got published, noobsports.com. I'm feeling really good about that prediction, that those will be the two teams that end up meeting for the Stanley Cup final this year. If that is the matchup and the stars align and for once a prediction comes that correct for me and we get Colorado and Carolina, if we go with two of arguably the deepest teams, most well-balanced teams, and that is our Stanley Cup final matchup, who do we have between Carolina and Colorado?
Well, for one, that would be an insanely fun matchup in the Stanley Cup, in my opinion. That would just be insanely fun. Tony, you don't root for the Maple Leafs, Tony.
It's like rooting for the Yankees.
Avs, really. You're rooting for the Maple Leafs and the Stan Kroenkes, Tony. But no, I think that would be an extremely fun matchup, Canes Avs. And I think the two fantastic fan bases that don't get enough love there either. Canes have a great young fan base. Mm-hmm. The Avs are developing a fantastic fan base. Now, they've always had a fantastic fan base, really. But I'm glad to see that now the Avs have all this talent to go along with their fun fan base out in Denver. For some reason, Denver and St. Louis fans, we always like root for the same teams. Seemingly, a lot of Denver folks root for St. Louis. But Stan Kroenke owns Colorado, so I'm going Canes. I'm going Canes in 7 if that's the matchup we get. And honestly, I would love that matchup. That would be a fantastic Stanley Cup matchup.
If that's the matchup we get, I'm going with Colorado. I think if Colorado stays healthy, I think they're just too dynamic. And I don't know. I like the Canes. I think that could be a 7-game series, but I got to go with Colorado. And if I have to have my pick, and I think all the stars align on my end, I would love to see Florida Panthers come out of the East, and I would love to see Colorado come out of the West.
I think
Colorado ends up with that.
Florida would be a really fun team to watch. The energy around that team is different this year than what it's been in the past couple, and they seem like they're all in on this Cup run. I think they're going to be a really fun team to watch. If it is Carolina and Colorado, I'm going to stick to my prediction from the beginning of the year. I'm going to take the Carolina Hurricanes to win. I think the biggest difference between Carolina and Colorado is the goaltending depth. Colorado does not have anybody behind Philip Grubauer. Dubnyk is not a Stanley Cup winning goaltender. If Pavel Francouz comes back out of nowhere, or Hunter Miska, whoever they have there, it's not enough. Whereas with Carolina, Mrazek and Nedeljkovic in particular, I think those guys could do it the way that they've been playing this year. The scheme that Carolina plays around them is good enough defensively to shut down the scoring that Colorado brings. We don't even talk about Carolina offensively that much, and they've got the second best power play in the league as well. So I think for my take, I think I'm going to go with Carolina. Tony saying that Carolina will be a tough out. They score one goal and they trap you to death.
He's not wrong. Yeah,
he's not wrong. And Rod Brindamore's system does kind of let them play that trap style and really slow you down. But I think we also can't disregard that Carolina is a good offensive team as well. 11th in the league in goals per game and second best power play there as well. That's going to be a really whoever Carolina plays, I'm watching. Whoever Colorado plays, I'm watching. Those are two teams that I want to see as much playoff hockey from those two teams as we can. And if we get them in a cup final, roll the dice for who you want to go with there. But between those two, I'm going to stick to my guns and take Carolina.
With where the Panthers are at right now in their build, we'll call it, it kind of seems like they are where the Canes were on their bunch of jerks run 2 years ago. It just seems like that's where they're at in the stage. So it seems like the Panthers are very close. They're sniffing deep in the playoffs. I don't quite think they have it this year, but I do think we see Florida take it deep into the playoffs in the next couple of seasons. They're building something down there.
I think Florida and Carolina is going to be our second round series, and that's also going to be a very fun series to watch.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one for sure.
Switching away from playoff hockey for a moment, Diego, as our guest star from the SinBinBreaks.com, I want you to give us a little bit about the Sinbin Breaks, how it started, where it's going, where it's been, and the explosion in card collecting in particular throughout the pandemic and even now coming out of it. Erik and I on a previous episode talked about how rookies this year are really driving the hockey collecting market, but want to kind of get your thoughts on both the history of the Sinbin Breaks and on the collecting industry at this point.
Well, I mean, it started back from when I was a kid. My father and I collected pretty much anything and everything. Lived up in New York for most of my life and attended basically as much live sport as I can. Went to see hundreds of Island games, hundreds of Ranger games, hundreds of Yankee games, and so forth and so on. And just anytime we can meet somebody live, my dad would get us in there and we'd get an autograph and get it tucked away. After Hurricane Sandy, our basement flooded in New York, and we ended up losing pretty much everything. I think I had one Goose Sausage auto left, and I moved down to Florida with my wife. I actually started collecting cards a little bit later on in life. My dad was more into the memorabilia side of things, and I kind of liked the cards. I thought it was cool. Every year there was an update of some sort, and so I'd order cards offline. And at the time, I thought hobby box was expensive. It was $120 for a hobby box, and you only got one auto, and it was like, oh my god, this is so expensive. And I kind of just kept all of them. I tucked them away in a closet, and every so often I'd go back and look, oh wow, this guy was rookie in 2017. I can't believe that. Look how great he's become. And last year, right around the pandemic, I mean, there was a ton of free time. I decided to slowly see if anybody had interest in this. I watched a few other breakers doing this live, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. They have this huge community that comes on. They stay up all night. They just talk. They drink. They have a good time. They have this thing called Discord that I had no clue about, where everybody gathers afterwards or during the day. They get to talk sports all day. They get to buy stuff from one another. They get to sell stuff from one another. They get to buy into these things. They get to draft teams live. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I was like, I could totally see myself doing this. And, I had a conversation with my wife. She's like, start slow. And, of course, my mind was, I want to do hockey. Now, I had no idea what the rules were for hockey, getting product for that, and that you needed to have a brick and mortar in order for Upper Deck to even sniff you and say, hey, here, you can start buying. And so I was like, okay, maybe hockey is not the right format for me. I have a love of baseball, so let's see how I do with baseball. And I hooked up with my local card store and got this huge relationship with them over the last 3 years. They started providing products at a lower price, and I just went on Twitter. I went basically anywhere I could: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I started getting anybody and everybody as cheap as I could possibly sell a break, and we're almost at a year. I think September will be a year for us. So I mean, we're very ahead of the game from what I've seen from other breakers and from other people that are doing this. Our community went from 10 people in the sin bin breaks that was supposed to be just for hockey, and now we're well over 400 people in the community. I honestly, beyond the cards, if for whatever reason the cards stopped and all we had was sports and conversation about sports, I still think our community would thrive and do really well, because that's our number one focus, is the community. I mean, I am so driven to make sure that every member in that group is thought of as family and not just a customer for cards and for memorabilia. I mean, that's a bonus. It's great. It's awesome. I love doing it live. I love being able to pull Ken Griffey Jr. autos, right? But at the same time, it's just the gathering aspect of it. And most of us live far away from one another. So it's so cool that we have the technology nowadays to hop onto a chat, and I can have a conversation with 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 people, whoever wants to hang out on any given time. And we get to share through this. It's like having a meal together, right? I consider it just as important, just as epic, just as intimate as sharing a meal with somebody. And having these nights 3 times a week, 2 times a week, whatever we can manage to put together, I think it's a blessing. Unfortunately, the prices of hockey products has gotten out of hand. I'm noticing a decline as of late. I think as the world starts to reopen, we might start seeing a decline. I don't know how far it's going to decline. I think the selling market is still pretty high. But if you take a look at basketball products, that's the one I'm going to have to nitpick on. They started way too high this year, and they are plummeting. Biggest example I can give you is the 2021 Prism basketball. It started at $2,000 a box. We're down to $1,300 a box right now. So I mean that's a pretty large dip. Yeah, it's a pretty large dip. I think stuff will continue to go down. In season, you're still going to see relatively high product prices. Baseball season, stuff is hot right now. They're pumping it out. Football season is just entering into 2021. We just finished with 2020 product. Chronicles just came out maybe 2 weeks ago, and we just got hit with 2021 this week with Score. So, I mean, it's just nonstop. I'm hoping that it keeps up, because it's a fun hobby. I hate for people to get priced out of it.
And I love what you touched on with the family element. And I think with your motto of family first, cards second, as the Sin Min Breaks motto, I joined in with your community, probably about 2, maybe 3 months ago, through Erik, got in on a couple of breaks, picked up some baseball cards, got a Ryan Tannehill jersey the other night, which I'm super pumped about. That was awesome. Really a fun night to be a part of. And you streamed that on Twitch for at least 6 hours. You started about 9 o'clock Eastern. It was 1:30 a.m. when we finally got into the football breaks, and there were more breaks that were going on even after that. So I think that does kind of touch on your community aspect as well, that you have a community that wants to hang out for 6 hours on a Friday night into a Saturday morning to talk sports and collect cards. That's really just an incredible thing to see as a community.
We once opened a flash break at 2:30 a.m. Sold it out by 3, and we were breaking till I don't know, it was like 5:15, 5:30 in the morning, Eastern time. People's wives were screaming at them. People were going to work still like on the stream, on the phone. I'm on the phone on the way to work, dude. Just keep going. I'm watching. And since I've been a part of the community, we have so much fun just hanging out. I mean, as Diego just said, I would gladly hang out and chat. I mean, in our Discord, we talk film, we talk books, movies. We have a nerdy stuff channel now where we can talk action figures and comics. I mean, we chat about anything in there and life in general. And I think we all help each other get through that daily life with that little bit of fun, or that 10 minutes that you can spend just chatting up people in the Discord, or the hour you get to spend on Twitch hanging out at night. So I know that it's helped me through a lot of my demons over the last year, just hanging out on Twitch on a Friday night, and sitting there for 12 hours and chatting about baseball cards, about men on cardboard, man. And I love it. So and Diego, you've been a huge part of getting me back into the hobby. I was away for many years, and you were one of the first breakers that I ran back into. And I ran out of reason to go to other breakers, so I pretty much just exist in the sin bin breaks now. So we encourage all of you, any of you out there watching, if you love sports like we do, even if you don't collect the cards, if you just love to chat, or you just want to check some stuff out, or see some signed helmets and jerseys, memorabilia, we do so much stuff in there. I would highly encourage you to go to the sinbinbreaks.com, check out what Diego's got on there, head over to Twitter at the Sinbin Breaks, join the Discord, come have some fun with us, because it is a lot of fun, and it's a healthy hobby. We love it.
Yeah, and don't ever feel pressured to buy anything. I mean, like I said, the most important thing is that we're able to gather, we're able to communicate. I love hearing what everybody has to say. I mean, it's just awesome seeing other people go through the same struggles that you're going through, or going through the doldrums of life, and you can connect on some of these aspects, on stuff that's going on in the sporting world. I just think, especially as men, I know this hobby is mostly dominated by men. We are lucky to have 2 or 3 females in the group. So it's good to have their input in it. It'd be great to get more, just to have like a different dynamic in the group. But just as men, I know we tend to shut down. We tend to not communicate as effectively as we probably should. And just to have that outlet, I guess, between us, just to say, hey, I'm going through something similar. I know what you're going through. You have multiple people here that are willing to listen and speak. And, I think that's stuff that you can't put a price on. And I think that's what separates us from every other breaker that's possibly just out there to make money. Because to me, the money comes and goes. I mean, it's like anything in life. It's there one day, it's not. But your relationship with others, your family values and all that stuff you can't replace. You can't put a price on.
Where else would I be able to get a Zachary Taylor card? That's right, the President of the United States, with a handwritten word "so" on it. He wrote the word "so" on a piece of paper. I have it in a card. I got that the same week as I got an autographed Cam Akers jersey, folks. I mean, that is a wide array of things right
Wow.
there, okay? We're talking history. We're talking football, where it's so much fun, and we get to do some crazy stuff like that.
Somebody got a George Washington all that night.
Yeah, a handwritten George Washington thing, man. That is one of the coolest things. I mean, by the way, out of that set, there were DNA cards, POTUS DNA cards, folks. Pieces of hairs in the cards. It's the weirdest thing ever. But you want to talk about having fun for a couple hours and just completely everybody cracking up and having a good time. That's still one of the greatest memories I have in the sin bin, is that silly POTUS break, just because everything was so funny. So much fun.
It's so great to have these outlets where we can talk about life and talk about sports. Erik and Diego, want to thank you guys for coming on tonight so that we could talk about playoff hockey. We can talk memorabilia, sports collecting, hobby collecting as well. Really want to thank you guys for your time tonight. And as we go to put a wrap on the show here, want to thank the Noop Sports program and the Sports 2.0 network for allowing us to have this show tonight, our NHL Playoff Preview show. Some things to be looking out for coming up. As Diego was just touching on, the Sinbin Breaks group at thesinbinbreaks.com, on Twitter, on Twitch. You can find them all over those media channels. Another new program from the Sports 2.0 network is the USA Wager Show, where we're covering U.S. sports betting industry headlines throughout the day. That's a daily program run by Ryan Newpel. He's done an awesome job on that. Be sure to give him a look there as well. But that's going to do it for our show tonight. For Erik Neff, for Diego Pasca, for the Sports 2.0 network. Want to remind you, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, on YouTube, and then on demand as well on Spotify and on the Apple Network. Once again, for Erik, Diego, for the Sports 2.0 network, my name is Dan Bradley. Enjoy the rest of your night.